Hello everyone, welcome back to another Project Gladiator weather forecast. Today I'll be covering the weather for August 27th of 2023, and currently we have a marginal threat that does extend from central Texas into North Carolina, including the states of eastern Tennessee, South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, southern Mississippi, Louisiana, and the Florida Panhandle. Our threats for this include only the threat of a 5% wind threat for this particular location, and I'll explain to you why that is. Taking a look at our 7-day graphical tropical weather outlook, mainly focusing on Tropical Storm Ida, it is expected to make its way northward and become at least a Category 1 hurricane by Tuesday at 7 p.m. and impact the Gulf side of Florida and the Florida Panhandle and the surrounding area as a Category 1 hurricane, possibly getting close to Category 2, but mostly going to be around a Category 1, maybe getting a little bit higher. The temperatures in the Gulf Coast are extremely high, getting up to 32 degrees Celsius, which is around 80 degrees Fahrenheit, I think. So as this begins to develop into a hurricane in the Gulf Coast and impact Florida as at least a Category 1 hurricane, this will definitely bring the possibility of flash flooding and the possibility of high winds to the Gulf Coast of Florida and to the surrounding areas, possibly allowing for maybe a little bit of a tornado potential with directional shear, but mainly our threats for this particular system as it begins to near the Florida coast is going to be flash flooding and damaging winds for this particular location. However, you do have about what seems to be 3 to 4 days until it does make landfall. Taking a look at our radar Omega model, starting off with our 500 millibars like we usually do, focusing on the marginal threat region for the southern United States area, you can see that we aren't really expected to have any level of flow across this region. The jet stream is expected to be pushed up towards the northern United States region. That's because of a dominating high pressure system across a majority of the United States region, which is overall going to limit our severe potential down to much of a marginal threat and limit organization of storms in this particular location. However, I will show you what our triggering factors for this location is, because you may be wondering, if we don't have any jet stream, that what might be triggering this marginal threat region. Taking a look at our temperature, I am going to be starting with temperature before we take a look at dew points, because this will show us our main triggering factor for this marginal threat location. And before I do show us our triggering factors, you see these colors in the maroon. The colors that are in the gray are going to be temperatures that are in the 90s, and colors that are getting into the maroon are going to be temperatures that are going to be in 100 and above. So if you do live in any of these areas that is expected to see temperatures that are going to be into the maroon, please make sure that you are watching for heat-related illnesses such as heat stroke. And if you do have any plans outside, which I do not recommend, please stay hydrated if you have any plans outside, as you will definitely need to stay hydrated in temperatures this high. Now taking a look at our triggering factors for this marginal threat location, you can see that we are expected to have a very clear boundary here between temperatures that are going to be in the 90s and the 80s, and this is going to be the front that does trigger our severe thunderstorms across this particular location. Because it is a front that is going to be triggering these storms and not anything associated with the jet stream, we aren't expected to see any sort of directional or speed shear to support hail or tornadoes. So our main threats are going to be damaging winds, as the very, very weak shear to non-existent shear in this particular location will not be able to support tornadoes or hail across this region. And because the high pressure system that is just sitting across this region, it is going to, again, limit our organization of our storm systems and overall limit our intensity and potential and keep our threat back down to a marginal threat. If we take a look at our dew points for this particular location for the marginal threat region, you can see that we are expected to have some fairly strong dew points across this region. If I put us right before storm development, you can see that we do have a decrease in the dew points that we have before storms are expected to begin. You can see those storms beginning to fire up in Louisiana and Texas. So if we take a look at the time right before storms are expected to begin, we are expected to see dew points that again do weaken as time goes forward. We did have those more widespread 70s, which have now dropped down into the mid to upper 60s and widespread low 70s. which will definitely still support the possibility of some fairly strong instability. However, it is definitely going to be weaker, as we have seen a trend over the last couple of days of instability beginning to get weaker and weaker as these areas of storm development begin to move further south. Again, we are expected to see a trend of weakening instability and overall weakening dew points and weakening temperatures. But with the temperatures that we have and the dew points that we currently have, we could still definitely see the possibility of some fairly strong instability for this region. Taking a look at our instability, focusing on the marginal threat region, you can see that we are expected to have much more weaker instability compared to the last couple of days. We are expected to have instability that is going to be ranging from the 1000s to 500 range up to the 3500 range across a vast majority of this region. However, our average should be mostly around the 1500 range to the 2500 range, which will still be able to support the possibility of damaging winds across this region. But again, with the high pressure system in place and the lack of organization, overall our severe potential is going to be much weaker and really only be able to support the possibility of locally strong wind gusts. So overall, storms are going to be pretty weak, and our main threats are going to be damaging winds. Now that I've told you the weather, please go down to the description and check out the socials for Project Gladiator, and join the Discord for any updates on Project Gladiator. And if you live in any of the areas that I covered for today, please stay weather alert for the time being, and hopefully I will be able to see you guys tomorrow with another forecast.